Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Humor Me podcast. I am your host, Alyssa Kelsey, and right now that means nothing. I'm gonna apologize in advance if you hear some background noise. I have a cat, 4 dogs, and a toddler. So there's a lot going on here. Um, yeah, I'm a nobody right now, and that's why I felt like I was a good person to start this podcast. Um, I have like a bunch of notes. I actually have recorded this before, and I just felt called to like do it again and take a breath. It's funny. I have this desire to be authentic online and share myself and create a community there. However, there is truth to the fact that as soon as we go to do something and then pause to share it, like it kind of interrupts that flow of authenticity. Um, and so I think that's kind of a good segue into why I chose this name of Humor Me. I am I'm just a human. I that's like that's my most comfortable label. That's like what I am a human. I'm also a woman. I'm also a mother. I'm also a spouse. I am also mentally ill to some people. I have ADHD, and I also have something called obsessive compulsive personality disorder, which is a cluster C personality disorder. I'm a New Yorker. I live in Ohio now, but I grew up, born and raised in New York, and so I think it's in my blood to be a New Yorker and hate New Jersey. So sorry. Um, and I lived in California for a little bit, Maine. I've been really lucky to kind of live all over the United States and be exposed to a lot of different realities, a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds. I'm also a licensed practical nurse. I'm not practicing right now, and I haven't in a couple years, but I am. I've also been a bartender. I briefly worked at PetSmart as a pet care associate. I am terrified of hamsters and stuff, and my job was like to take care of them. And I did, don't get me wrong, I cleaned their cages, I did everything. But I'm also terrified of snakes, and I lost 3 ball pythons in the Rensselaer um, PetSmart. So if you're ever in Rensselaer County, New York at a PetSmart, careful, a python may fall out of the ceiling, and it's 100% my fault. Um, but I'm just a person, and I'm married to a person who's in the military right now. He's got a year left, thank God. He signed up for that before we met. And I am incredibly grateful that he did, because we wouldn't have been in the same area at all. He's from Missouri, I'm from New York. There's no way we would have connected without the military. However, I will say I am an aggressive pacifist. That is a label I'll use. Some other quick ones to describe myself are a Reiki practitioner. I'm a writer, amateur gardener, a Sigma empath. I'm a neighbor. I think I'm a good neighbor. I hope so. I'm a try-hard. It's probably annoying. I think that's probably one of my more annoying things. I love it because I really enjoy trying hard. However, trying hard means I burn out quick. Probably the ADHD, I've been told. I'm pansexual, and I'm trying really hard to be a person who other people call kind. I would love to, after I pass someday, to like be known as a philosopher and an activist. However, I don't think that those are words that can necessarily be applied to you within your life. Kind of like a saint. You don't get to live and be those things. There are some, don't get me wrong, but at least us white people, we gotta die, and then someone else can call us it. I'd love if people called me an ally to all. I think I am. I try so hard to be. Honestly, that's one of the big reasons I am trying to do this, is that I am desperately, desperately trying to create and cultivate community in every essence of the word. I live in a very rural part of northeastern Ohio, the North Coast, if you will. And I'm finding myself surrounded by people who often challenge me because they're just different than I am. And I was born and raised Catholic, and now I'm surrounded by a lot of like evangelical Christians. I have Amish neighbors, which I have previously been very outspoken about disliking the Amish and even like expressing hate towards them. I've since worked past that because judgment is, there's just no room for it, and it's just fear. I can admit that. I'm just afraid. Sorry, that's my cat playing with her little birdie toy. She's so cute. Her name's Irene. I named her after one of my patients. But, okay, anyways. So yeah, I live in this rural area surrounded by people that are very different from me. I'm 30, and my closest neighbor friend is 75-ish. I love UK. I want to talk about people on this podcast because it's about community, and I'm really hoping to have people come on and we could talk about our communities together and have stuff like that. But when I'm referring to people, I want to just use them, I'm just going to use the first letter. So yeah, my neighbors K and J are incredible people. I'll be talking about them a lot because they're really a huge inspiration. They're an older couple who have been a huge staple in the 20 years that they've lived in my area. And Kay will be up at like 5 a.m. and I'll go out to like get the mail or whatever at 6, and she'll have like a hot, fresh banana bread ready for me, for my husband, for work. It's just like I'm so incredibly grateful to have someone like that around me, and it has reminded me what community is supposed to be. And more than anything, it's reminded me what I want my role in community to be. I think what like kind of fucked us up, sorry, I'm a cusser. I think it's because as a nurse, I have to like control it, reel it in, and I can be professional AF. I can do that whole thing. However, I also need to just get it out sometimes because I feel really hard. I have a personality disorder, guys. I feel like crazy. That being said, I think what really fucked us up is that I'm gonna actually change that. What fucked me up with community? I'm so sorry, Mom and Dad. I know you tried really hard. You did your best. I'm not coming at you, but I had community exampled really poorly for me. It was not modeled well, especially the importance of it. There was a lot of talk. I was raised Catholic, so there was a lot of talk about like our church community, and we did do community work and stuff like that. I remember building a shed for a smaller parish. My mom was very active in the soup kitchen for a couple of years. That was like downtown. I lived in like a small town around Syracuse, New York, but in downtown Syracuse, she volunteered at a soup kitchen, and I think that was part of my brother's like senior project. I was there. I went, a handful of times. I'm going to be honest. I was not super active. What my first volunteer experience was in a nursing home. Actually, it kind of checks. Guys, I love my old people. I'm connected as fuck to the boomer generation. They're annoying, yes, but I love them because they're just scared. They're just scared little babies, and they'll never admit it. They're going to die being stubborn, but they are. They're just scared. And they modeled, I feel like there was, a disconnect. There's, the boomer generation had, or not the boomers, what comes before boomers? Because my dad's a boomer. Whatever's before boomers had this, Gen X, right? No, it goes boomer, then Gen X. I sound like I'm in the jungle. Whatever's before boomer, that generation had community, but I don't think they necessarily passed it down to their kids. I feel like they kind of shamed it out of them Like my dad grew up, my biggest community example is Catholic church, because my dad grew up very Catholic. He went to Catholic school and everything. So he had that idea of community shoved down his throat. And it was very much, I think, imprinted as something that was, for some people, just handed down. And my grandfather was a judge and a very prominent person in like his social circle and especially at his church. So it was kind of handed down to my dad to be Catholic and a part of the community. I don't know if it was necessarily my mom coming into the family or what it was, but when I feel like when I began going to church, especially when I began going to my grandparents' church, which was probably around when I was like 5 years old, and we moved into the house that like my parents still live, and I started going to church school there and stuff. I just never felt any sense of community. I never felt accepted. I saw community, but I did not feel a part of it. Like I always felt like we were kind of looked down on, and we weren't the only family like that, but it was very like elitist. And so for me, like the first and biggest model of community was that, yes, it exists, but you have to be good enough for it. You have to be like holy enough. You have to not sin. You have to be the kindest and the most perfect. And I'm a very flawed person. I am beyond flawed. I will talk about that through and through. Like I'll never back down to being told I'm wrong. I don't mind, like, I will speak, and that's another part of the reason I chose the name Humor in Me. Like, don't take me too I'm just a human. I am just trying. I'm just speaking. And so, yeah, like, I totally just got caught off on what I was, but, like, I'm just here trying. And so I would try, and, like, I just always felt like I was still falling short. I was still not hitting the mark. I remember being in church and, like, being like, okay, please let this be enough. I'm praying so hard. Let this be what, like, makes it all fit, like, makes me have friends here, makes me, like, feel a part of it. Like, but I just, the love and belonging just never, ever clicked for me in my church experience, in my community. And I feel like when you're a child and you don't have a good example of community, you're fucked. Just like when you're a child and you don't have a good example of anything, you're fucked in that area until you find someone to show it to you, or you teach yourself whatever way you find to develop that thing, or maybe you don't. But it falls on you instead of falling on, if your parents don't, I guess, accept, if they don't accept the job that they chose. And then I think another thing that I lost out on was teaching how to have that like meaningful community created. Because again, I wasn't modeled for me. It wasn't taught to me how to, one, join community, and two, how to extend an invitation to community in a meaningful way. My parents, I remember I did brownies for a little bit. And one of the reasons I wanted to do brownies was because I was really excited to sell Girl Scout cookies. Like I thought that sounded so fun, going around door to door. But my mom was like adamantly like, no, we don't do that. That's very much like asking for charity. It's annoying. Things like that. Like something that I think of as like, I understand that it's not the most like charitable thing. It's Girl Scouts. They're flawed. It's just like Boy Scouts. It's not. But I guess it's one of those that's like the intention behind it. It's the thought that counts. And I just think that having that mentality of we don't lean on our neighbors, we don't ask our neighbors for help, really, really stuck with me. We also were a family that was like very much like our problems were our problems, which is hilarious because we're also loud and scream at each other. And we lived like in a neighborhood that was very hilly. So like we definitely were like one of the loud families that like everyone knew our business, but we thought we were so sly. And then so yeah, like I don't know how to ask to like join community. I get so awkward. I get so in my own head about like, okay, joining a community means I have to do all of this all at once. And I think that I didn't realize I had to define my role in a community. For one, gotta take a picture. There's a beautiful sunset outside the window right now. I will share this in the post because it's just a beautiful, beautiful sunset. But when I would go to like approach or find a community that I thought like seemed cool, I go all in and go hard. And like I said before, I'm someone who's a try-hard and then I burn out. So I didn't realize I could kind of define my role. And I think something, again, a lot of us millennial Gen Z, I was born in 95. I feel millennial. People will tell me I'm Gen Z. I think there's a lot that factors into it. Talk to me about it if you'd like. But I go in and I'm like, okay, I have to do all of these things, and I have to like be this big person who's a huge part of it. I forgot that I can like be a beginner. Guys, we can be beginners. Millennials, we can be beginners. It's cool to try something and not be good at it. That is something I'm working so hard on. I am joining the PSL, which is the Party for Socialism and Liberation, and I'm saying that loudly and proudly because that's a community that I'm a part of, and that's a community that I think is a good example of community that we should be a part of. Is communities that build up each other and support each other and keep each other safe and protected on all fronts, all over the world, beyond borders, beyond colors, beyond who we love. And so in joining that, I've had to do a couple of interviews, and they've asked me things like what I'm interested in. And I am someone who, especially on the phone, and these are phone interviews, I get, oh yeah, and I can do this and this and this. And I mean, you can probably tell even when I'm talking here, I get very excited and into things, and passionate, I think is a good word to describe me. Even though sometimes it's probably not in the right places. Like I said, I've had people tell me I'm very wrong about things I've been very passionate about, and it has been very embarrassing. But luckily, I am all about brushing things off, because if you don't fall on your face, what are you doing? I'm sorry. You got to do it, and you got to learn to brush it off and laugh at yourself. And so in doing these interviews with the PSL, I have been very careful about not being afraid to say, I'm very new to this. You know, they'll ask like if I have any experience with organizing or with all this stuff, and it's like, I don't, but I'm willing to learn. And I'm also willing to do small stuff. I think we have to be willing to do the grunt work a lot of times, and I get it. We want to just like be the boss or be like doing the fun stuff. But I always try to remind myself that we have to be okay doing the bottom of the barrel work. This is nursing really instilled this within me, because if you've ever worked, I was going to say if you've ever worked in healthcare, but honestly, if you've ever worked any sort of team type job, which, you know, the service industry is a huge one, there's always those people who feel like they're high and mighty. There's always the bartender who's too good to bust a table. There's always the nurse who's too good to wipe an ass. I've always been really proud to be that person who's like, if I'm your nurse, me and my aides are the same. Like, I'll empty the trash, I'll pass out trays. Like, we're a team. If you're at the top of the team, you have to be able to do everything below you. And if you're at the bottom of the team, be okay being at the bottom and know that you don't have to take on any extra responsibility. Like, I think there's a lot of pressure that we get put on in this society to go beyond. And it's okay to simply do. Like, you remember that trend of what they call it, like the quiet quit, the silent quit or something, where like boomers were saying that millennials were lazy because we just like did our jobs like bare minimum. And like, no, I'm doing my job at the minimum, like, especially for minimum wage in this fucking country with no benefits. No, thank you. And I'll die on that hill, promise. So that being said, community is a living, breathing thing. When you enter it, you're like a newborn. You can be the little baby. That's another thing I'm remembering, especially in the PSL. I am very new to like, hi Gibby, hi Irene. I'm very new to like politics and like, especially actual action, which I think is something that is very important. And so I'm trying to get out there and like network. And I hate that word because it sounds so corporate, but I mean it in like a community networking. I'm trying to just make friends and ask questions, something that I have learned. I've kind of basically spent, in last May of 2024, I had kind of a mental break that I'm calling an awakening, because I think that awakenings are some of the ugliest things in the world. I committed egotistical suicide. And I know that sounds scary, but I just, if you've ever heard of an ego death, I willingly chose to kill my ego. And it was there were so many factors that played into that. But what it did was lead me into a 9-month intensive self-study program that has kind of now led me into this. I know who I am. I have a confidence of who I am. I turn 30 in, today is the 27th, so 4 days. When you're hearing this, I will be either be turning 30 or being halved turned 30. And I'm an adult in this world. I'm a citizen. I am a homeowner. Landowner. I hate that word. No, I'm a land borrower of Mother Earth, and I'm incredibly grateful to have a home on that land. And that I have this home that keeps me and my child, my husband, my brother-in-law who lives with us, and all our animals safe. Oh my God, why did I go into all of that? Guys, again, ADHD. And I'm not gonna edit this. I'm sorry if you're gonna be annoyed about little pauses and my little giggles and stuff, but I just think it's more human, and this is all about being human. All of that because I started as a search into myself, and then now that I've found this, quote unquote definition of who I am, or I guess more so confidence to assert the question mark of who I am into the question mark of who anyone is. I've now realized the part I can play in community, and the part that community can play for me and for my family, and also what community means beyond physical, beyond local, because I think that it is just as important to care about our global community as it is our local community. I think there's obviously a balance to be found there, especially, I think a big pressure, especially these days, is financial pressure to donate and be active in that way. And it's not easy. Like I just said, I have a lot of animals. I have a child and my brother-in-law who lives with us. Financially, we've got nothing. We are living, we are scraping by. We are getting by. We're doing fine. And I'm incredibly grateful. And that is not but I just mean I often carry a lot of guilt that financially I am not able to participate very much. I do what I can, but that's not some place that I can really be active. So finding other ways that are, if not more meaningful, again, a big part of activism is putting yourself out there. So going to marches and stuff. However, I was reading something or watching it was a reel on Instagram, fuck Meta, but it was talking about how when Martin Luther King and a lot of the original activists that we think of started doing these marches that we're doing these days, they were marching to a sit-in or to go register to vote or to do an action. And so I've been trying to remember to do things along with sharing and marching. Those are incredible. I'm not trying to minimize, but emailing senators, other officials, boycotting brands, especially now with what the Trump administration is doing with the DEI regulations and things like that. And, being smart about where we spend our money. Again, we don't have much money. Many people, I think I can pretty much royally say the you for those of us who are in my bracket, both age, existence-wise, you get what I'm saying, vibe-wise. So we have to be careful where we spend it because sadly, right now we're living in an oligarchy. And so our community is what matters. A big part of what I'm trying to cultivate in my local community is more of a bartering. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm an amateur gardener, I'd say, an aspiring farmer, and I'm really loving the idea of exchanging vegetables and growing in my garden what my neighbor Kay doesn't grow in her garden, and us sharing in that way, and making that bigger, and then having a table out front where I'm gonna have last year I gardened and I didn't really plan, I just kind of threw seeds and had so much zucchini, so a table where I know I could sell it, but I could also just put some out and just be take what you need, or I could bring it down into I could drive into town, because I live pretty far away from the actual town. Not pretty far away, I live 15 minutes, but I it's a little bit of a drive. And so I've been just trying to remember that you can be really creative. One of the things that I did last year during my quote unquote mental break awakening was it was May, so it was garage sale season around these parts. And I went up to a garage sale and I would see something that I, like, and then I would find the person who's running it and I would be like, okay, hi, I'm Kels and I live, down the street, whatever, and I'm a stay-at-home mom right now and I don't really have much, but if you don't sell this at the end of the day, this is my number and I would love to bake you cookies or whatever, and find different ways to just exchange, no one took the bait, but I got numbers and I made friends, and it was, I think, something at least cool that got people talking. And I'm going to do it again this coming garage sale season, except for this time I'll be a little bit more prepared. I'm going to bring stuff to really trade. It was, again, kind of unplanned. I was not doing the best mentally, but it brought me to where we are now, which another thing I've kind of learned in my little exploration, my little hideaway study community time, is a reminder to myself of every role within community is just as important. No person, no matter what they contribute, is either bigger, smaller, better, worse. It's all got to be equal. There's a writer I really enjoy. I think he's technically like a journalist, but his name's J.P. Hill, and he wrote an article about how something that's different about the world these days is that we used to have to deal with people that we didn't like you'd have to have, if your pharmacist was annoying, you had to go to the pharmacist still and get like your meds. You had to like deal with them and find a way to like be like, all right, hi, Mr. Pharmacist. Yeah, I know. Like you had to be pleasant. And especially with like social media and the growth of our ability to be online and be these kind of masked selves, this kind of feigned mask of like toughness that lets us bully and everything. We can kind of be cold, and we, especially with our ability to, recoil from our communities with things like, DoorDash and what's it called? What's the shopping one? Instacart. I live in the middle of nowhere. I don't have access to these things anymore, so my brain has just shut it all off. I understand completely. I'm not saying be perfect. Like if you're not feeling good, Instacart, whatever. But like there is something to be said about going out to your store, your grocer, your local grocer, not Walmart, and like, yeah, maybe paying a couple extra cents, but smiling at the person who lives down the street and asking their name. Sometimes I get locked for an extra 15 minutes in an aisle, and it's annoying, don't get me wrong, but I'd love to like dare you to, next time you're grocery shopping, just like say hi to someone and let a conversation, if it happens, let it roll. Especially an older person. They're frustrating these days because they're silly and they're scared, but they really are a delight. They're just like children in the sense that to have lived 60 plus years is so wildly rare. I think we think of our average length of life, whatever, is 75. I don't know. It's probably shorter than that now in America, but like in the reality and like the grand scape of humanity, it's kind of wild to live beyond 60 years. That's like incredible, actually. And so yeah, just try to make a connection with someone older if you have a chance, because I just like, I don't know, they're kind of magic. And sometimes it'll be frustrating, but it's just like, you walk away and like just try to like, again, like be patient with yourself and them and just take the interaction for what it is, because we gotta respect our elders. I hate them, don't get me wrong, but we have to love them too. All right, I guess I've been rambling for almost a half hour now, and you probably kind of get the gig, you kind of getting the thing. The last thing I just wanted to share is kind of a silly little acronym that I created for community. I'm a nurse. I was a nursing student. We are notorious for acronyms, for mnemonics, all that sort of thing. So I, in developing this episode, when I was, coming up with my notes and everything, had to make an acronym and I wanted to share it. So let's go. C for collaboration. O is for openness. M is for motivation. M is for mindset. U is for unity. N is for neutrality. I is for interdependence. T is for integrity. And Y is for a yes attitude. Because we got to be willing. Okay, that might have been a mess of a first episode. I don't know. I hope that I was at least kind of enjoyable. And you'll come back and be a part of this little community, whatever this little thing is. Humor Me started as a little blog that I think it was 2023. Yeah, August of 2023 that I began. I have always been drawn to sharing who I am. I am a prolific journaler, even though it's really only been the past 2 years that I've been finishing journals. I have always been called to do it. I have bought and started more journals in my life than I could ever count. Sadly, I don't remember them all, or I don't have them all. I burned a lot in my angsty teen years. I am very much like a passionate, dramatic, symbolic person. So I would get mad. I remember I had a friend break up with my best friend in 9th grade, and in I think it was 11th grade, I was really into ceramics, and I walked past the art room and I saw her throwing on the wheel, and I went home and I was just so upset. I was crying beyond consolable, screaming, and I took this God, I'm gonna cry. I took this photo album that she had made us about our friendship, and I just ripped it up and burned it outside. And she was my neighbor, and so I did it in our fire pit, which I hoped that she could see, which she would never know what I was burnt. It was not, but me again. I'm just dramatic, angsty, and fire burns, it cleanses. It makes sense that I identify with witches now. Yeah, I just think magic is real, and I do crazy stuff. I know that. I know that I'm a lot. I know I am loud. I know that I can be sarcastic, which can come off as rude. I can be insensitive. I sometimes forget who I am, and that's why I like the term human the most for defining myself, because I think at the end of the day, we really are just human. I'm a big fan of Kendrick Lamar. I think he's one of my favorite poets to ever exist, and one of the greatest, if not the greatest, musician of our time. But he has a line in his new album, "Where are you from? Where am I? Where am I from? Where are you from? We all indigenous." I'm butchering it, but "we all indigenous" is the line that I'm going to refer to, and it just it hits this idea that I'm not trying to negate the importance of the indigenous. Of course, I live on Mississauga land. Oh shoot, there's those doggies. Uh-oh. I would pause it, but then I live on Mississauga lands, Erie, Seneca lands. It kind of is disputed exactly who originated settling these lands, but we all at this point are here. We all have a responsibility. We all have stake in the matter, and we've all got to just be a little better. People have made fun of me because I'm one of those people who will pick up one piece of trash and throw it out, go out of my way. And I remember I was sitting in Dover, New Hampshire, having coffee with a friend, and they were like, that'll never make a difference. There's still going to be litter. And I just was like, yeah. But if everyone picked up one a day, maybe in 10 years it would make a difference. Like, it's just, I'm just a firm believer in the magic of everyone trying. My favorite little fraying is heal yourself to heal the world. Because I think that when we heal ourselves, we heal our world, and the more healed worlds we have in our big world, the more healed it'll be. Yeah, so I'm Melissa Kels, and this is the Humor Me podcast, a place where we get into community and being human and finding the grace to just do it all, and when we can't, I don't know, get the fuck through. I hope you'll come back and join me. I'm really excited. Episode 2 is going to be talking about my experience possibly joining a church, which is, I'll get into it in that episode, but something very new to me, very different than who I was even a year ago. I was going to say 10 years ago, but even just a year ago, 6 months ago. But yeah, until then, you can follow me on Instagram at Alyssa Kels with 2 S's. I'm on Substack. It's the Humor Me Substack. And yeah, just stay kind, especially with yourself, because we are all we have at the end of the day. Bye. Love you.